So, Liz, how have you been? It's been so long.
Oh, doing great. I'm glad to be back here in the Quad Cities. As you know, I've been out traveling for around 2 months, so it's nice to be back home.
Really cool. So what are you doing these days?
Well, I currently work at Augustana College. I am the director of international admissions. So my role is to spread the word of liberal arts to high school students and tell them about the opportunities of higher education in the United States.
So I see that involves you doing a lot of traveling out of the country. Talk about that.
Well, I'm typically out on the road between 4 to 5 months, typically in Southeast Asia, but I also travel to Northern Europe and South America, and I'm typically in anywhere from 20 to 30 cities a year, so it's really exciting, but I live my life on the road. I live in hotels, airports, constantly meeting new people, so it's very exciting. But like I said, it's so nice to be back and be home with family as well.
And what's that like to be able to see so many different places and to be exposed to so many different cultures like that for you?
Well, I can't think of any other word but exciting. When you go out, when you leave the airport, you imagine every single time it's going into a new world. You're meeting new faces, new cultures, new languages. Anything from food to transportation, everything you see is new and different. So I always take it upon myself to really dive into the culture and talk to those people to really get to know, what their life is like. How is it like mine, and how is it different, and what can I learn from the places that I go travel to?
And so what really drew you to this job? Is it the traveling or what?
Well, I have two passions in life, and one is traveling. Everyone who knows me, I took on my first travel abroad when I was 15 years old. I lived in Mexico for a year, and after high school, I kind of had the travel bug, so I kept on wanting to explore new places. So I went to Sweden for a year, returned, finished college, lived in Ecuador, Peru, went to Spain for a year, went back to Mexico. So I've kind of been country hopping, but the other passion of mine is to combine travel with education. And so I had become an international teacher, and I had been teaching English abroad for around 5 years, and I found my way back home with this amazing opportunity to work for one of the top liberal arts colleges in the U.S. And so here I am, is helping students continue their education every single day. I speak to anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 high schoolers and tell them about how they can reach their goals and their success story. So you can imagine how rewarding of a job it is for me to help others pursue, their passions.
And what's been like some of the things that you've heard from the students that have come to Augustana after you visited them in their country and then seeing them over here in ours?
Yeah, it's a little bit surreal to think. Just last week, I had been in Sri Lanka, and I had been meeting with a family and with one of my students and her mother and her father, and it was interesting to be at their home, seeing their way of life, had this amazing meal. I can't even explain to you that it was things that we don't even have in the States, and just sitting around chit-chatting about every life in Sri Lanka, on this island, off the coast of India. And literally 2 days later, I see this girl on our campus in Rock Island, Illinois, and that same emotion of something new, watching it on her face and having her dream come true, that college had finally started, was so rewarding and so exciting, and that's what drives me to continue this work.
Cool. So what's been like like your favorite place that you've been to so far since you've been doing this job?
Oh, I get that question all the time. I think it is one of the most challenging questions to ever for me to answer because, well, every place has something to offer. You know, you'll go to places and you're just stunned by the architecture and the history. Other places, you can't get enough of the food or the hospitality that people give you to welcome somebody from so far away into their homes and to make sure that you feel welcomed. So every country has something to offer. My personal biases for being Mexican American is always that Mexico will always have a special place in my heart because the culture is so, it's part of me. It's who I am. It's my identity. So I always have a preference there. But like I said, every place is special to me. And I think that when I think of a place, I think about that student and their families. And it just becomes my extended family away from home.
So when you're out in these different countries and you're talking to these students, what do you say to them to get them interested in coming, not just to the U.S., but coming here to the Quad Cities?
Yeah, well, I believe that the Quad Cities, obviously Quad Cities being home, is something very special. Most international students, when they think of the U.S., they're thinking of New York, Chicago, San Diego. But one thing that I always tell them is that as a student coming to the Quad Cities, you have a really unique opportunity to shine because you don't have that same competition of hundreds of thousands of college students. So you come here and you're in an urban setting where you're having access to companies like John Deere, Alcoa, and you're only a 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old college kid. In any other city, you would never be able to get your foot in the door. So coming to the Quad Cities, I think, is just that perfect place to focus on your studies, really grow as an individual, and compared to cost of living in some of these other places, it's impossible to get ahead. So here you get a chance to save money, really build your resume, really discover your passions and your interests because you get a chance to have internships. So that's really exciting. And plus, it's absolutely beautiful. You know, here we're right along the beautiful Mississippi River. You have every venue you can possibly, whether it's music, art, outdoor festivals. I have plenty of students that have never seen the snow, and you have all 4 seasons here. So there's so many things that attract students to the Midwest and to Augustana. It's one of the top leading liberal arts colleges. So it's very appealing to students to know that they're going to have access to this rigorous academic program that just makes them so excited about coming here.
Okay. So talk about what are some of the things that motivate you to always do your best?
Oh, awesome. Well, I guess naturally when you're passionate about what you do, then you want to do better. So I have a personal interest in all the students that I meet. I take it upon myself to help them realize their dreams. So I completely dive into my work by constantly trying to better, to constantly understand, understand the students, understand the families. And you can imagine that's a tough job because my market is the world. So you have to essentially constantly learn about what do families in China want in comparison to students and families in Sweden, right? So it is a difficult task to kind of become the expert on the world. I cannot say that I am, but of course I'm taking on the challenge to definitely become the expert. It's a lifelong endeavor, and I just hope that I can continue to grow, and it's exciting. And like I said, I'm just very passionate about the work.
Awesome. And what are some of the things that you've learned along the way that have helped you succeed and are helping you to achieve even future goals?
I think the number one thing that I always remind myself is to take everything in perspective. I think this is the hardest thing for people because we grow up in our communities with our family and friends, with people who are like us. And it is so hard, it is so challenging to question who you are, question your beliefs. But every time that I travel, I'll go somewhere new and see a certain way that things are done and automatically have judgment. Well, in the U.S., that's not how it is. And you have to remember that maybe the way that you do things are not always the best way, or maybe it's okay to have a different way of doing things. And so this is something that I try to remind myself, that I try to remind my staff and remind the campus at whole, my friends, that we should always take the opportunity to meet people, get to know them, and respect the differences. And I think that if we were to do that, we'd realize that we have so much in common and that all people want the same thing, right? And I think ultimately that will make this a better place to live. And so that's definitely my mission.
It seems like a big one, but it seems like that you're taking it with stride.
Yeah, like I said, I think the most important thing is to live every day by trying to learn something new. Take on something that you would have never had the chance to. Step out of that comfort zone. Every time that I've pushed myself to do this, I find a new interest or just something that makes me more appreciative about the world that perhaps I never realized before.
Cool, very awesome. So, when this hits the web within the coming months, what's a message or some words of wisdom that you want to share with everyone when they see you online?
Oh, wow. Well, I don't know if I call it words of wisdom, but I truly just share what comes to heart. And I guess the thing that I would like to share with my peers are for people to really take on this life as an adventure. I think we get in this rut of this robotic life. We have to go to work and work, go home, go do this, and it's so easy to just to succumb to that. And I always tell people, take this chance, take a weekend and make a special weekend to go, maybe volunteer. Right? I think volunteering is one of the best acts and most rewarding things that people can do. I personally, when I have the chance to volunteer to teach English at some of the community colleges here in the local area, and it's so fascinating because the people that you meet, for those people that don't know, the Quad Cities is one of the homes for World Relief, and so we have numerous refugees, families in the Quad Cities, which makes this such an amazing place to live because you have all that diversity. But people don't know about it, right? So, I learned so much about people who live in Togo and Guatemala and Mexico who come to the Quad Cities and contribute to our community, right? And that's a special piece. So, if I could give, like I said, I don't know if it's wisdom or not, but I think it will truly have an impact on the Quad Cities and maybe at the bigger picture if people started caring more about volunteering and meeting the people who live in our communities.
Really cool. In keeping with the community topic here, the goal of this project is to show that the everyday person right in your own backyard can be just as larger than life as a celebrity or some politician or someone that you would see on the big screen. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, I'm a Midwest girl at heart. Grew up in Hampton, Illinois, population 2,000. Never would have ever expected that by the age of 30 I would have visited over 40 countries. I have been to probably over 60 cities, have lived over 5 countries, and it was a dream of mine. I remember as a young girl growing up in a bilingual home and being half Latina and Midwestern girl. I always had this curiosity of my father's land, and going to Mexico really opened my eyes that this is just the beginning of finding new ways of life, new cultures, and I wanted to keep on exploring that. And later on, here we are, 15 years later, and I found my dream job, and it's really exciting. And I tell everyone, when you discover what your passions are, that's going to automatically, I truly believe that automatically leads you in that direction to pursue a career that can help fulfill those dreams.
Awesome, Liz, very awesome. That's all I have for you. Is there anything else that you would like to say that we haven't talked about at all? I just think that this is just a great experience for people to hopefully, like I said, go out of their comfort zone and to turn to the person next to them, maybe at a coffee shop, or maybe you're sitting there pumping gas and you turn over and you meet somebody new and ask them about their experiences, and you will find that every single person has something to share and every person has a story. And so hopefully by sharing these stories, we will have more respect for one another. Perfect. Thank you so much, Liz.
Thank you.